The sun had not yet risen over Shadowleaf village, but Zhaoyun was already awake. A faint silver mist wrapped the village like a protective cloak, blurring the outlines of cottages and trees. His small wooden home sat at the eastern edge of the village, where the soft rustle of Verdantwild's ancient trees could still be heard at night. Inside his cottage, the air was cool, tinged faintly with the earthy scent of wood and fresh morning dew. The room was sparse, a low bed with a tightly rolled blanket, a worn wooden table holding a clay pot and a single oil lamp, and a meditation mat woven from river reeds. No unnecessary possessions, no distractions. Everything Zhaoyun owned had purpose. Without a sound, he swung his legs over the side of the bed and rose smoothly to his feet. The floorboards cool beneath his bare soles. His body moved naturally, without hesitation or stiffness, as if answering an internal rhythm. He began his daily ritual. First came the stretch, his arms raised skyward, fingers spreading wide as he reached, spine lengthening toward the ceiling. A deep breath filled his lungs with the damp morning air. As he exhaled, his body folded downward, hands brushing the wooden floor in a slow, deliberate bow to the earth. Then came the movements, slow circles of the arms, rolling from shoulder to wrist, easing the joints awake, rotations of the hips, bending and swaying, weight shifting from one foot to the other with perfect balance. His muscles moved like water rippling across a stone, every motion fluid yet controlled. Outside, the mist clung to the fields, the world still caught between sleep and waking. A distant bird called once, a soft, questioning note, then was silent again, swallowed by the quiet of the woods. Zhaoyun transitioned seamlessly into low stances, crouching, stepping forward, rising with the grace of a cat. His hands carved arcs through the air, palms slicing and flowing, each gesture cutting an invisible path that only he could see. There was no audience, no applause, only the sacred dialogue between his body and the morning. At last, when the flow of movement had completed its natural circle, Zhaoyun lowered himself onto the meditation mat and sat cross-legged, his back straightened like a pillar. His palms rested gently on his knees, fingers relaxed but attentive. His breathing slowed to a deep, steady rhythm. He closed his eyes. For a long time, there was nothing but the rise and fall of breath, the soft hum of energy that permeated all things. Zhaoyun tuned himself to that current, the unseen river that ran beneath the surface of the world. Normally, it flowed smooth and uninterrupted, a steady pulse of life that comforted those attuned to it. But today, there was something else. A flicker, a tremor at the edge of awareness. Not strong, not yet, but present, like a single discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. Zhaoyun's brow furrowed slightly. Almost imperceptibly, he did not chase the feeling. Instead, he breathed into it, letting it brush past his awareness, neither grasping nor resisting. Whatever it was would reveal itself in time. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. Time did not matter. When at last he opened his eyes, the first fingers of sunlight were reaching over the rooftops, painting the mist in shades of pale gold. The village was beginning to stir, and Zhaoyun, silent as the mist itself, rose to meet the day. By the time Zhaoyun stepped beyond the boundary of his cottage, the village had fully awakened. Shadowleaf bustled gently with life, not the noisy, chaotic life of cities, but the steady, harmonious rhythm of a place long attuned to the land. Thin columns of smoke curled upward from chimney tops. Somewhere, a hammer clinked against iron at the blacksmith forge. The scent of baking bread, damp earth, and morning flowers mingled in the cool air. Zhaoyun adjusted the simple cloth tunic he wore loose for freedom of movement, tied at the waist with a plain cord. He set off down the packed dirt paths of the village with unhurried steps, barefoot, feeling the world beneath him. The path curved toward the Verdantwild side of Shadowleaf, the lush and tamed woods whose towering trees whispered to each other in the breeze. Villagers who lived near the forest edge always rose earlier than others, tending fields, herding livestock, gathering herbs. There was work enough for any willing hands. Zhaoyun offered his without hesitation. First task, the broken fence. The first call for help came from Madame Lin, an elderly woman known for her sharp tongue and sharper wit. Her small goat pen, nestled dangerously close to the Verdantwild boundary, had suffered overnight. The fence splintered and half collapsed, Muddy hoof prints scattered around the yard. Blasted animals, Madam Lin muttered, waving a crooked cane toward the damage. No respect for boundaries these days. Zhaoyun examined the wreckage silently. No fresh blood, no sign of lingering predators, only the faint scent of restless fear clinging to the air. The goats bleated nervously in their enclosure, huddling in a tight cluster. Without a word, Zhaoyun moved to gather the fallen posts. His hands worked methodically, setting the wood upright, driving it deeper into the softened ground with measured strikes of a stone hammer. He lashed the joints tightly with cord, knotting each tie with practiced ease, ensuring the fence would flex with pressure but not break. Madam Lin watched, muttering approvingly under her breath. When he finished, the fence stood stronger than before, firm against both beast and storm. Zhaoyun bowed his head lightly to the old woman and moved on without asking for thanks. Second task: the kite in the tree. Near the edge of the fields, a small commotion had gathered. A boy, no older than 10 summers, stood beneath the towering elm tree, arms waving frantically. A bright red kite tangled high among the branches, fluttered helplessly in the breeze. "Please, mister," the boy cried, face flushed with frustration, "I can't get it down." Zhaoyun tilted his head, studying the tree. The lowest branches were too high to reach by jumping. The trunk was smooth and thick, not easily climbed. Most men would have tried brute force chopping or shaking the tree, but Zhaoyun saw a different path. He stepped closer, feeling the give of the earth beneath his feet. Breathing out slowly, he crouched, focusing his strength inward. Then with a graceful surge, he sprang upward, catching a low-hanging branch with a single hand. His body swung lightly, no wasted motion, and he scaled upward with a fluidity that made it seem effortless. At the top he reached out carefully, untangling the kite strings without breaking them. The kite, a simple construction of wooden paper, bore the image of a crimson hawk, fierce and proud. Zhaoyun descended just as gracefully, landing with a soft thud before the wide-eyed boy. He handed over the kite without a word. The boy stared, mouth agape, then broke into a wide, beaming grin. "Thank you, mister," he shouted, already racing away across the field, the kite bobbing triumphantly behind him. Zhaoyun watched him go for a moment, a faint smile touching the corner of his mouth before he turned toward the forest once more. Third task: the herbalist's burden. Beyond the fields, near the thin line where village and forest blurred together, he found Mira the herbalist struggling under the weight of 2 heavy wicker baskets, each overflowing with fresh herbs and flowers. Sweat beaded her brow as she tried to balance them, nearly dropping one. "Too much, thought I could manage you," she panted, looking up in relief as Zhaoyun approached. Wordlessly, he took the baskets from her, hoisting them effortlessly over his shoulders. The scent of crushed mint and lavender filled his nose as he adjusted the weight evenly. Mira chuckled breathlessly. "Thank the spirits you're always around. These old woods feel different lately, like they're holding their breath." Zhaoyun said nothing. He simply walked beside her, matching her slower pace as they made their way back toward the village. His ears stayed open, though catching subtle sounds from the woods beyond. Leaves rustling where no wind stirred, a sharp fleeting whisper of energy that did not belong. The sun had risen high by the time Zhaoyun finished delivering the herbalist's baskets. The village buzzed in its familiar rhythms, children laughing, merchants haggling over fresh produce, the distant clink of hammer on anvil. It should have been an ordinary day. Yet, as Zhaoyun paused at the edge of the Verdantwild fields, a tightness lingered at the back of his mind, a faint vibration he could not explain. The trees at the forest border stood unnaturally still, their ancient trunks towering in silent vigilance. Even the birds, usually chattering among the branches, had fallen silent. He turned to make his way back toward the village square, and that was when he heard it. The sharp, frantic rustling of leaves, a flash of movement among the undergrowth, heavy, uneven footsteps pounding against the earth. Before he could react, a figure burst out from the tree line, a young woman, hair disheveled, face flushed with terror. It was Sarah, one of the village's newest adventurers, known more for her cheerful spirit than for reckless bravery. But now, there was no trace of cheer in her eyes, only raw fear. Her tunic was torn at the sleeve, scratches lined her arms and cheeks, and her breaths came in short, ragged gasps. She stumbled across the field, legs nearly giving way beneath her. Zhaoyun moved without thought. Silent as a shadow, he crossed the distance between them and caught her by the shoulders just before she collapsed. Zhaoyun moved without thought. Silent as a shadow, he crossed the distance between them and caught her by the shoulders just before she collapsed. Sarah's hands clutched desperately at his sleeves, her eyes wild. "See the plants," she gasped. "They moved. They attacked." Zhaoyun steadied her with one arm, feeling her trembling beneath his hand. Their energy, normally lively and bright, now burned erratic, jagged with fear. He didn't question her, he didn't ask for details. Some truths were best dealt with later, after the body was safe and the mind steadied. With a firm but gentle touch, he shifted her weight against him and began guiding her toward the heart of the village, toward the Adventure Guild Hall where she could find care. As they walked, Zhaoyun's sharp senses swept outward. The Verdantwild at their backs felt strong, not just restless, awake, watching, breathing in a way that forests should not. The tall grass near the forest edge quivered, though no wind stirred it. From a corner of his eye, he caught sight of vines slithering back into the underbrush as if hiding from sight. Sarah half collapsed against him again, mumbling incoherently about metal trees and roots that wouldn't let go. Zhaoyun tightened his grip slightly, leading her faster. The village rooftops came into view, and with them, the heavy oak doors of the Adventure Guild, standing open and welcoming. Roger, the gruff-quilled Daster, was already stepping outside at the sight of them, his weathered face hard and with concern as he barked orders to the nearby aides to prepare a cot and bandages. Zhaoyun passed Sarah gently into their care, giving only the barest of nods. He did not linger to explain. He knew Brogger would get the story from Sarah herself once she calmed. Instead, he stepped back, standing quietly at the threshold of the guild, his eyes drifting once more toward the Verdantwild. The forest stood still, but it was a stillness pregnant with secrets. Something inside had changed. The day gave way to twilight, and then to night. Shadowleaf village, so lively in the afternoon, had settled into a gentle, murmuring stillness. Lanterns glowed softly along the dirt paths, their light flickering against the cool blue of the evening mist. Zhaoyun made his way back to his cottage, the soles of his bare feet silent against the earth. The familiar smells of hearth smoke, damp grass, and distant river water filled the air. In the distance, an owl hooted once a low, solitary note. Inside his home, the world narrowed to simple things again. He lit a single candle and placed it on the small wooden table. The flame wavered against the gloom, casting long shadows across the walls. Zhaoyun lowered himself to the meditation mat once more, his legs folding into a cross-legged seat with practiced ease. He closed his eyes, hands resting lightly on his knees, and allowed his breath to steady into slow, even tides. He let the memories of the day rise within him, like stones sinking slowly into a deep, dark pond. The old woman's fence, the boy's kite, the herbalist's burden, small tasks that should have meant little. Yet today, even the mundane had felt touched by a subtle strangeness. Animals more restless, trees standing too still, energy humming slightly out of tune. And then Sarah, her terror round real, fleeing the Verdantwild as if pursued by something unseen and unnatural. Zhaoyun inhaled slowly, feeling the cold air fill his lungs. He had sensed it too. The Verdantwild was not simply restless, it was waking. He thought back to his morning meditation, to that tiny ripple he had first felt before sunrise. A disturbance too faint to name, too distant to chase. He had ignored it then, believing the world would keep turning as it always had. Now he wasn't so sure. The candle beside him flickered as a breeze slipped through the cracks in the window frame, stirring the flame into a slender dance. Shadows shifted across the wall's fleeting shapes without form. Opening his eyes, Zhaoyun watched the candle burn. The silence around him was deep, almost heavy. Beyond the walls of his cottage, the ancient woods of Verdantwild stirred not in wind, not in rain, but in something deeper, something that carried weight without sound. The world was changing, and whether ready or not, he would be drawn into its current. Zhaoyun exhaled slowly, extinguishing the candle with a soft breath. Darkness embraced him as he settled deeper into stillness, waiting, preparing. Morning would come soon enough.